Some questions haunt you forever, not because you don't know the answer, but because the answer makes no sense. This is the story of Dr. Sarah Mitchell, an emergency room physician at St. Catherine's Hospital in Portland, Oregon. 15 years of experience, thousands of patients, hundreds of deaths pronounced, but nothing prepared her for the moment Margaret O'Connor asked for water. 4 hours after Sarah had declared her dead. Let me tell you what happened on November 7th, 2022. It was a typical Wednesday night in the ER. The kind of shift where chaos feels routine. Ambulance after ambulance, chest pains, car accidents, a teenager with a broken arm, an elderly man with pneumonia. At 8:43 p.m., they brought in Margaret O'Connor, Maggie, as everyone called her, 81 years old, cardiac arrest in her home. Her neighbor had found her collapsed in the kitchen. The paramedics had worked on her for 20 minutes. CPR, defibrillation, advanced cardiac life support. Nothing. No pulse. No breathing. No response. Sarah took over when they arrived. She had to try. That's what you do. You fight for every life, even when the odds are impossible. 15 more minutes, chest compressions, epinephrine, electric shocks that made Maggie's frail body jerk on the gurney. The monitor showed a flatline, that terrible, unforgiving flatline. At 9:18 p.m., Sarah made the call. Time of death, 9:18 p.m. The team stopped. The sudden silence after all that noise. That's what Sarah remembers most. The machines going quiet, the organized chaos becoming still. Death has a sound, and that sound is silence. Maggie's daughter, Jennifer, had arrived 10 minutes earlier. She'd been standing outside the trauma bay, watching through the window. Sarah saw her collapse when the team stepped away from the body. Sarah went to her. This was the hardest part of the job, not the medical failures, the human ones. Telling someone their mother is gone. "I'm so sorry," Sarah said. "We did everything we could." Jennifer couldn't speak, just nodded, tears streaming down her face. Sarah stayed with her for a few minutes, answered questions, explained what had happened, offered the things doctors offer in these moments: time, tissues, a private room to say goodbye. At 9:45 p.m., Jennifer went in to see her mother one last time. Sarah stayed outside, updating charts, finishing paperwork, moving on to the next patient. Because in an ER, you don't get time to process. You save who you can and move forward. Maggie's body was moved to a quiet room, room 7, away from the chaos of the ER, a place where families can sit with their loved ones before the morgue transport arrives. Jennifer sat with her mother for an hour. Sarah checked on her twice. The second time, Jennifer was ready to leave. "I can't stay anymore," she said. "I need to call family, make arrangements. I don't know how to do any of this." Sarah helped her gather Maggie's belongings. The small purse she'd had with her, reading glasses, a rosary, the things we carry that outlive us. Jennifer left at 11 p.m. The funeral home would pick up the body in the morning. Standard procedure. Room 7 would stay closed overnight. Maggie would rest there until transport arrived at 6 a.m. Sarah went back to work. A woman with appendicitis, a child with a fever, a man who'd cut his hand badly while cooking. Life continues, even when death is in the next room. At 12:30 a.m., the night shift nurse, Marcus, came to find Sarah. "Dr. Mitchell, room 7, I think you should come look." Sarah was in the middle of stitching the man's hand. "What's wrong?" Marcus hesitated. "The body, Mrs. O'Connor. Something's off." Sarah felt a chill. Bodies don't do unexpected things. Once death is pronounced, that's it. Biology stops. Chemistry stops. Everything stops. She finished the last stitch quickly and followed Marcus to room 7. The room was exactly as they'd left it. Dim lights, peaceful. Maggie's body lay on the bed, covered with a white sheet up to her shoulders, hands folded across her chest, eyes closed. The picture of death's stillness. But something was different. Sarah approached slowly. As a doctor, you develop instincts. Right now, every instinct was screaming that something was wrong. "What did you see?" Sarah asked Marcus. Her chest. "I swear I saw it move. Just once. Like a breath." Sarah felt her heart rate spike. "That's impossible. She's been dead for over 3 hours." "I know what I saw, Dr. Mitchell." Sarah put on gloves. Professional mode. Scientific mode. There had to be an explanation. Muscle spasms. Rigor mortis. Postmortem gases. The body does strange things after death. This would be something normal. Something explainable. She placed 2 fingers on Maggie's carotid artery. The place where a pulse should be. Where a pulse had not been for 3 hours and 12 minutes. Nothing. No pulse. Cold skin. Exactly what you'd expect. Sarah checked pupils. Fixed and dilated. No response to light. Normal for a deceased patient. She was about to tell Marcus it was nothing. Probably just a trick of the light. When she saw it, Maggie's chest rose. Slightly. Barely perceptible. But it rose. "Jesus Christ," Sarah whispered. She grabbed her stethoscope, pressed it against Maggie's chest, listened. Silence. No heartbeat. No breath sounds. Nothing. But she'd seen it. They'd both seen it. "Get the crash cart," Sarah said. "Now." Marcus ran. Sarah checked pulse again. Still nothing. But that chest movement. It had been real. The crash cart arrived. Sarah attached monitoring leads. The screen flickered to life. Flat line. Complete asystole. No electrical activity in the heart at all. "This doesn't make sense," Sarah said aloud. "She's dead. The monitor confirms it, but I saw her chest move." Marcus stood back, clearly shaken. "What do we do?" Sarah didn't know. You can't resuscitate someone who's been dead for 3 hours. The brain dies after 4 to 6 minutes without oxygen. Even if you could restart the heart, the person would be gone. But something made her stay. Some instinct she couldn't name. At 12:48 a.m., 18 minutes after they'd entered the room, they heard it. A voice. Faint, raspy, barely more than a whisper. "Water." Sarah spun around. The room was empty except for her, Marcus, and Maggie's body. "Did you hear that?" Marcus asked, his voice shaking. "I heard it." The voice again. "Water. Please." It was coming from the bed, from Maggie. Sarah's medical training warred with what her senses were telling her. Dead people don't speak. Dead people don't ask for water. This violated every law of biology she'd spent 15 years learning. But she'd heard it. They'd both heard it. Sarah moved to the bedside, looked down at Maggie's face. Still peaceful, still dead, eyes still closed. But the lips had moved. "Mrs. O'Connor?" Sarah's voice was barely steady. "Maggie?" No response. Sarah waited. 30 seconds. A minute. Then again. "Water." This time, Sarah saw it clearly. Maggie's lips moved, formed the word. The voice was hers. Marcus had backed against the wall. "This isn't possible. This isn't—" "Get me water," Sarah interrupted. "Now." Marcus didn't move. "Marcus, water, now." He ran out. Sarah stood there, stethoscope still in hand, staring at a dead woman who had just asked for water 4 hours after her heart stopped. Every rational part of her brain screamed that this was impossible. Hallucination, exhaustion, stress. Something wrong with her, not with Maggie. But she knew what she'd heard, what she'd seen. Marcus returned with a cup of water, ice cubes floating in it. His hands were shaking so badly the cup rattled. Sarah took it, stood by the bed, and did something she'd never imagined doing in her entire medical career. She offered water to a corpse. "Maggie, can you hear me? The water is here." Silence. 1 minute. 2 minutes. Sarah was about to give up when Maggie's eyes opened. Not fully, just slightly. Enough to see the blue of her irises. Enough to see that she was somehow, impossibly, aware. "Thank you," Maggie whispered, and then her eyes closed again. This time, something changed. A shift in the air. A release. Like something that had been held tight had finally let go. Sarah checked the monitor. Still flatline. Checked pulse. Still nothing. Checked pupils. Still fixed and dilated. Maggie O'Connor was still dead. Had been dead for 3 hours and 30 minutes. But she had asked for water. She had opened her eyes. She had said, "Thank you." Sarah and Marcus stood in that room for 10 minutes, neither speaking. The cup of water sat on the bedside table, untouched, but somehow having served its purpose. Finally, Sarah broke the silence. "We need to document this." "Document what?" Marcus asked. "That a dead woman talked, that we gave her water 4 hours after death? They'll think we're insane." He was right. How do you write that in a chart? How do you explain something that shouldn't exist? But Sarah had witnessed it. Marcus had witnessed it. And in medicine, you document what you observe, even when it makes no sense. She pulled out her tablet, opened Maggie's file. Under additional notes, she typed carefully, "At approximately 0048, Nurse Marcus Williams and I observed unusual phenomena in room 7. Patient, who had been deceased for 3.5 hours, appeared to vocalize the word water. Upon investigation, patient briefly opened eyes and verbally acknowledged provision of water. All vital signs remain consistent, with death pronounced at 21:18. Recommend continued observation." It was the most professionally worded version of madness she could manage. "Are you actually submitting that?" Marcus asked. "I'm documenting what happened. That's my job. Your job is going to get a lot harder when administration reads that." Sarah closed the tablet. He was right, but she'd deal with that later. Right now, she needed to understand what had just happened. "Have you ever seen anything like this before?" she asked Marcus. "In 12 years of nursing? Never. Bodies do weird things, sure. Gases escaping, muscles twitching. But speech? Awareness? No, never." Sarah thought back to medical school, to all her training. There was no explanation for this. No medical phenomenon that could account for vocalization hours after death. Unless it wasn't medical. The thought made her uncomfortable. Sarah was a scientist. She dealt in facts, data, evidence. The supernatural wasn't part of her worldview, but what she'd just witnessed wasn't part of medicine either. "I'm going to call Jennifer," Sarah said. "Maggie's daughter. She should know about this." "Know about what? That her dead mother asked for water? That'll devastate her. Or comfort her. I don't know, but she deserves to know." Sarah left the room, found a quiet corner, pulled out her phone. It was 1:15 a.m. Jennifer had left only 2 hours ago. The phone rang 4 times before Jennifer answered. Her voice was thick with grief and exhaustion. "Hello? Jennifer, this is Dr. Mitchell from St. Catherine's. I'm sorry to call so late, but something happened that I think you should know about." Silence on the other end. Then, "Is something wrong with my mother's body?" "No, nothing wrong. Just something unusual," Sarah explained. She kept it simple, clinical. Maggie had vocalized, asked for water, briefly opened her eyes. "What does that mean?" Jennifer's voice was shaking. "Is she alive?" "No, I'm sorry. All medical indicators show that she's deceased. Has been since 9:18 p.m. But there was some kind of awareness, Brief, very brief. My mother asked for water? Yes. Jennifer was quiet for a long moment. Then, she was always thirsty. At the end, her heart was failing, but her kidneys were struggling too. She kept asking for water, couldn't get enough. It was one of the last things she said to me yesterday. I'm so thirsty, Jenny. Sarah felt something click into place. She called you Jenny? Yes. Only her, though. Everyone else calls me Jennifer. When she said thank you tonight, Sarah paused. How to phrase this? She seemed at peace, like the water was what she needed. Jennifer started crying. Not the desperate sobs from earlier. Something different. Something that sounded almost like relief. She's okay, Jennifer said. Isn't she? Wherever she is, she's okay. Sarah thought about Maggie's face when she'd opened her eyes. That moment of clarity, of gratitude. Yes, Sarah said. I think she is. They talked for a few more minutes. Jennifer thanked her for calling, said she'd tell the rest of the family, asked Sarah not to mention this to anyone else. People wouldn't understand, Jennifer said. But I do. Mom came back to say goodbye, to finish something. And you helped her do that. After they hung up, Sarah sat in that quiet corner for another 10 minutes, processing, questioning, wondering. She'd been taught that death was the end of consciousness, the cessation of all neural activity, the final stop. But what she'd witnessed tonight suggested something different. That awareness could linger, that the dying might need something, a last word, a last request, a final closing of circles left open. At 2 a.m., she returned to room 7. Maggie's body was still there, of course, but something had changed. The presence that had filled the room earlier, that sense of someone being there, was gone. Sarah stood by the bed, looked down at Maggie's peaceful face. Rest now, she whispered. You got your water. The morgue transport arrived at 6 a.m. as scheduled. Maggie O'Connor's body was taken away. The paperwork processed, the room cleaned and prepared for the next patient. But Sarah couldn't move on as easily. Word spread quietly through the hospital. Not officially, never officially, but nurses talk, doctors whisper. Stories pass through break rooms and shift changes like ghosts themselves. Within a week, 3 other staff members had approached Sarah privately, each with their own story. Dr. James Patterson, who'd been at St. Catherine's for 23 years, told her about a patient who died of cancer. 2 hours after death, the woman's hand had moved across the bed, reaching toward a photograph of her husband. When James had placed the photo in her hand, the fingers had closed around it, gently, deliberately. I never wrote it in the chart, James admitted. Who would believe it? Nurse Rachel Torres described a man who died after a stroke. 6 hours later, while Rachel was cleaning the body, she heard him sigh. Not a release of gases, an actual sigh, long, peaceful, like someone finally able to rest. I told the family, Rachel said. They weren't surprised. They said he always took his time with everything. Of course, he'd take his time leaving too. Even Marcus, who'd been so shaken that night in room 7, opened up more. He'd seen things before. A woman whose monitor had flatlined, but whose eyes followed him across the room for a full minute afterward. A man whose body had been cold for hours, but whose hand had been warm when his daughter held it. I always thought I was crazy, Marcus said. Seeing things that weren't there, but maybe they were there. Maybe they are there. Just not in the way we're taught to recognize. Sarah started noticing more. Not dramatic events like Maggie's request for water. Subtler things. The way families would report feeling a presence in the room with the deceased. A warmth, a comfort. Something that made them certain Their loved one was still there, just slightly out of reach. The way death sometimes came in stages. The medical death, the stopping of heart and lungs and brain activity. And then, hours later, another kind of departure. Quieter, less measurable, but somehow more final. She began to wonder if what she'd been taught was incomplete, that death wasn't a single moment, but a process, a transition. The body stops, yes, but something else, consciousness, spirit, whatever you wanted to call it, might linger. 3 months after Maggie died, Sarah attended a conference on palliative care. During a late-night session over coffee, she met Dr. Elena Vasquez, a hospice physician from Seattle. They started talking about difficult cases, unexpected deaths, the mysteries that medicine couldn't explain. Sarah told her about Maggie, the water, the thank you, the peace that had followed. Elena didn't look surprised. Deathbed phenomena. It's more common than most doctors want to admit. We see it in hospice all the time. Patients who see deceased relatives, who speak to people who aren't there, who seem to be experiencing something beyond what we can measure. But Maggie was already dead, Sarah said. 4 hours dead. Medically dead. Heart stopped. Brain activity ceased. But if consciousness is more than just neurons firing, if there's something that exists beyond the physical body, then maybe medical death isn't the whole story. Sarah had never been comfortable with that kind of thinking. It felt too much like faith, too little like science. But Elena continued, I've been doing this for 18 years. I've sat with hundreds of dying patients. And I've learned that there's a moment, sometimes hours after the medical death, when something leaves. You can feel it. The room changes. The air shifts. Whatever was keeping them tethered finally releases. What do you think it is? Elena smiled. I don't know. I'm a scientist. I deal in what I can measure, improve. But I've felt it too many times to deny it. We don't understand consciousness. We don't understand death. Maybe we never will completely, but maybe that's okay. Maybe some mysteries are meant to stay mysterious. Sarah thought about that conversation for weeks, about Maggie, about all the stories she'd heard, about the gap between what medicine teaches and what she'd experienced. She started reading, not medical journals, but accounts from other doctors, nurses, hospice workers, people who'd witnessed the same impossible things she had. They were all there. The stories medicine doesn't talk about. The dying who visit loved ones miles away. The deceased who linger to finish something important. The moments of awareness that happen long after awareness should be possible. Dr. Sarah Mitchell still works in the ER at St. Catherine's. She still pronounces deaths, still tells families the hardest words in medicine. I'm sorry, we did everything we could. But she sees her work differently now. She understands that death isn't always the end of the story. Sometimes it's just a transition, a threshold crossed. And sometimes the dying need a little more time, a little more presence, one last thing before they go. She keeps a cup of water at the nurse's station now, just in case. Most of her colleagues don't know why, but Marcus does, Rachel does, Dr. Patterson does, and sometimes, late at night, when a patient has died and the family has left and the room is quiet, Sarah sits with them for a few extra minutes, just in case they need something, just in case they're still there, just in case they haven't quite finished saying goodbye. She thinks about Maggie often, about that impossible moment, that request that should never have come, the thank you that changed everything. And she wonders what Maggie saw in those brief seconds when her eyes opened. Was it the hospital room? Was it something beyond? Was she already somewhere else? Looking back one last time, Sarah will never know, but she knows this. Whatever Maggie experienced, it was real. The water was real. The gratitude was real. The peace that followed was real. And if that's true, then everything we think we know about death might be just the beginning of understanding. The medical textbooks don't have a chapter on this. The journals don't publish studies about the dead who speak. The hospitals don't train doctors to expect the impossible. But Sarah knows now, and she tells the new residents quietly when they seem ready to hear it. Medicine can explain a lot, but not everything. And the things it can't explain, those might be the most important things of all. If you've ever sat with someone who was dying, if you've ever felt a presence in the room that you couldn't see, if you've ever known with absolute certainty that your loved one was still there, even after their heart stopped, you're not imagining it. You're not making it up. The boundary between life and death is thinner than we think. And love, real love, deep love, doesn't stop at that boundary. It reaches across, it lingers, it finishes what needs finishing. Maggie O'Connor taught Sarah that, with one simple request: water, the most basic human need, given 4 hours after death, should have made all needs irrelevant. But it wasn't irrelevant. It was everything. It was the last gift one human being could give another. Acknowledgement, recognition, care. And in that moment, in that impossible moment, Sarah understood something that no medical school had ever taught her. We are more than our bodies, more than our heartbeats and brain waves and biological functions. We are consciousness. We are connection. We are love that exists beyond the physical limits we've been taught are absolute. And death isn't the end, it's just a door. And sometimes, just sometimes, that door swings both ways. Thank you for listening to Maggie's story, and Sarah's story, and the story of everyone who has ever witnessed something impossible become real. If this touched you, there are more stories like this. More moments when the boundaries dissolved. More proof that we are far more than we've been taught to believe. Subscribe to hear them. Step between worlds with us, because the truth is waiting, and it's more beautiful than you can imagine.